Copilot Studio has been our hub for extending Copilot with low code since we first got our hands on Microsoft 365 Copilot last year. But in that time, a lot has changed, and the latest iteration of this extensibility technology is, in my opinion at least, the most compelling, with some solid features added already and more announced to be coming soon to our new Copilot declarative agents. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a declarative agent in Copilot Studio, how to set it up and customize it, and how to add actions that allow it to do things on your behalf. I'm also, as always, going to explore some of the limitations and opportunities arising from this technology, so you have a complete picture of whether you want to get started now, and whether this is something you want to invest in for the future. But first, a quick introduction. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm the owner of Bright Ideas Agency, a digital transformation consulting company focused on helping smaller businesses get the best from AI. Check out the links below if you're interested in learning more about me or my services. Over the course of the last two videos, I've explored the other places in Microsoft 365 you can currently build agents without using code, in SharePoint and with the Agent Builder experience in BizChat. It's not necessary to watch those videos before this one, but if you want to get a complete picture of agents, I do recommend taking a look at some point. Links to them are down below. The basics of a Copilot agent are the same wherever you choose to build them. You choose a scope of a set of data, you guide its behaviour through natural language instructions, and you map out the user's experience by creating a name, description, an icon, and some starter prompts. But using Copilot Studio, you can push beyond these basics by exploring more types of data and using actions that allow you to start to have agents that work on your behalf. Jumping into Microsoft 365 Copilot in Copilot Studio, we now have the option of building an agent. And if we jump into that experience, you can see that we start with a natural language configuration tool to help us set up the agent. Or if we skip to configuration, we have the ability to set a name, icon, description, instructions to add starter prompts and to add knowledge and to turn the web browsing option on and off. These are essentially the same set of options we have in the Agent Builder in BizChat. However, if we jump across to an agent that's already been built, you can see that we also get some additional options once it's been set up. The biggest and most important difference being that here in Copilot Studio, we can add actions to our agents. If you're at all familiar with Power Automate, then the range of options you see in this actions section will already be pretty familiar to you, as they essentially overlap with the automated actions you're able to add to your flows in that product and touch the same range of different first-party and third-party services. It's not necessary to know all about Power Automate to use these effectively, but as you will see, it definitely does help. If this overview is valuable to you, please do give it a like and drop a comment to let me know how you plan to use these new features in Copilot Studio. Also, if you want to see more like this, and I'll have a lot more coming about Copilot agents soon, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So let's think about a scenario where you might want to use agent actions. When you add SharePoint knowledge to an agent, what you're really targeting in on is the files held within that site's document libraries. But if you take a site like this one, which was part of my recent SharePoint Agents demo, and remember all the data you see in my videos is demo data, there are often assets associated with sites that aren't files. In this case, I have metadata columns in my document library, but I also have a SharePoint list where I'm keeping data about my social media campaigns. Create an agent and point it at your site, and out of the box, none of that data is visible, only the files. And by the way, the same is true for Microsoft 365 Copilot. None of that data makes its way into Copilot's semantic index. But this is where actions can come to the rescue, for this sort of need and many others. So let's put together an agent quickly that is able to grab data from my social media content scheduler list. Here I have an agent that's already been set up as an assistant for this Project Falcon. It's able to help me with questions about the project, but I want it to be able to use the information on my content scheduler list to help me with that too. I'm going to go ahead and add an action to grab the list data, and for the purposes of this demo, the one I want is the SharePoint Get Items action. and those of you familiar with Power Automate will already know what that does. Upon selecting the action, you're asked to provide a description, you make sure you have a connection to the data source, and you can rename your action for use in your agent if you wish. This is useful as you might end up with multiple copies of the same action pointed towards different instances of the same type of data, for example. You also want to describe the action so that the agent can understand it. You can also do this in the instructions by outlining the agent's capabilities, but one of the things that seems to hold true with Copilot extensibility is the more descriptive you are, the better it works. Next, you configure inputs and outputs. For this particular action, we need a site address and a list name, and for certain inputs at least, you can either grab the information dynamically from the request or hard code it in. Again, if you're familiar with Power Automate or maybe the PVA builder or now custom agent builder, you will see that this interface here is really a smashing together of PVA topics and Power Automate actions. For some actions, there are lots of outputs already registered and you can choose to rename or describe them. In this case, we just take the value output back to the agent. Again, this is a concept that will be familiar from flows, where for some actions, where the data schema may vary depending on how you set up the data source, the action will be less specific, whereas for an action like the Office 365 users get my profile, the data returned and its schema will always be exactly the same. Once you're happy with the configuration and importantly the name and description of your action, you can go ahead and finish. And once you've done that, all you have to do is add the action to the instructions, and depending on what you're trying to achieve, this might be something super simple or something more complex. If we publish the agent, we're given the option of filling out further information to describe it. This is the same as when publishing any Power Platform asset like this. And remember, if you're going to share or centrally distribute your agent, this stuff should definitely be filled out accurately. You are given a link and this takes you to the Microsoft 365 app screen. And if you add the agent, you'll be taken to a view of it in BizChat. A really useful thing you can do when testing actions in BizChat is turn on developer mode by typing -developer on. This allows you to see clearly which actions the agent is choosing to use and what data is being returned to it, which can really be invaluable in working out any bugs that you're running into with your actions. If we try out a request that should call the action, it asks for authorization to send the data to the action. The first time you go ahead and run this though, there aren't any connections for your agent, and it fails. Go ahead and sign into the agent, add in the relevant connection, and then if you refresh or try again, you'll get a response. If you run into any issue with your response, use the added information you get from the developer mode to help you work out what's gone wrong. In this case, you can see it shows you the whole action output, which is so much more helpful than the way the information was presented previously. And there you have it, actions running in a Copilot agent. With so much going on in the world of productivity AI, working out how to get the best from this technology can be both time-consuming and confusing. I help businesses like yours with their Copilot adoption journey, from advisory help on the selection of the right AI tools, to technical advice with their implementation, to end-user and leadership training, and support with extending its capabilities across your operations, like we're seeing here with Copilot agents. Whether you are just thinking about which AI solution to choose, or if you're already in the midst of using Copilot, I will help you to maximize your return from your investment in your AI technologies. Check out the links down below and get in touch to start working with me. If you've been working with Copilot extensibility in Copilot Studio for a while, then you'll be familiar with the different options that have existed: connector plugins, prompt plugins, conversational plugins, and flow plugins, and all with the same Achilles heel. They were difficult to surface and difficult to actually make work consistently in the flow of a Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. By making agents really a wrapper for other Copilot extensibility options, Microsoft have built a new framework that is simple enough to be accessible to anyone who uses Microsoft 365 Copilot, but robust enough to satisfy even complex extensibility needs. Putting your instructions in the loop as the key to driving both the knowledge and actions your agent is able to access gives you an incredibly powerful toolkit that, in my view, is just in a different league to what we had before. There is still a lot of work to do though. There are many things that we can do with custom agents or custom copilots, both in terms of how we connect the flow of their work together and what we can connect them to, that are not available to declarative agents, at least not through Copilot Studio. A really simple one right now is to be able to push tightly controlled responses or cards into the chat. There are also questions in my mind about sequential actions, as I didn't find agents very good at this in testing, and this will be core to the autonomous capabilities that we know will be starting to be released to the public in preview form at Microsoft Ignite. I'm also looking forward to seeing how integration of Power Automate flows as actions work, as at this point, in my tenant at least, I wasn't able to try this. While I really think Microsoft has gotten a lot right with these updates, I'm a little confused by why we don't simply have the ability to publish a custom agent to Microsoft 365 Copilot as a channel. There is already a precedent for being able to use the capabilities of Power Virtual Agents, or now Copilot Studio, inside a tenant with cut-down capabilities in Teams. So why confuse things by maintaining two different routes? Clearly there are parts of the Builder UI that imply capabilities that are not currently there in declarative agents, but hopefully they will come. It would be great to see complete parity between custom agents and declarative agents, and Copilot Studio should ultimately be the place where we're able to leverage such parity. However, I very much believe that the picture we are now seeing of Copilot's extension potential is a much clearer one. Previously, I could spend a long time reviewing the different plugin options and uses with clients, and there still was a layer of confusion about the practicality of those solutions. With agents, this confusion no longer exists. It is clear that you can build something today and scale it over time, as long as Microsoft stays the course with this current extensibility path. So give it a try, or have you already? Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.